Kristen Oakes-White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. Winter storms Uri and Viola delivered a hard blow of destruction across the southern United States. Back-to-back winter storms dumped unprecedented amounts of snow, sleet, and freezing rain with record low temperatures across parts of Louisiana. According to the National Weather Service, some areas of the state picked up 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice accumulation. That snow and ice led to widespread power outages and structure collapses, including poultry houses, barns, and storage facilities. Greenhouses are among some of those damaged structures in the central part of the state. The community of Forest Hill is known for having more than 200 nurseries, supplying folks from across the state and beyond with the color for their landscapes. This week, Twila's Carl Wiggers takes us to the town that is typically buzzing with shoppers in March, but instead is picking up the pieces after the storm.
The freeze of 2021 will long live in the memories of many nursery owners in Forest Hill. That's especially true for the owners of Doug Young Nursery. Owner Marcia Young says so far they've lost more than half of their crop.
This particular nursery, we're up to about 60–65% at this point.
This greenhouse covered an entire acre, housing around 200,000 plants when the freeze set in. As you can see, they lost all of the plants inside.
Annuals, vegetable plants, perennials, tropicals. This is a full greenhouse, a full heated greenhouse that should protect anything that's in it.
And this is just one of the greenhouses that collapsed. We also have about 8 others at this location, just not as big as this one.
Samantha Young is the third generation to help run this nursery. She says the damage is also not isolated to her family's nursery.
Within 6 hours or so after the storm hit, I had spoken to a couple of the other nurserymen, and same thing with them. Houses just collapsing left and right.
Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, Dr. Mike Strange, says it's a priority to get these nurseries rebuilt.
To get this nursery and the other nurseries, there are more than 200 nurseries here in Forest Hill, and this is the economy of this region.
Almost every nursery in this area is suffering. In the same situation we are. If it's just a guy like I told you about with one greenhouse, or somebody like with a whole acres and acres of them, everything is proportional. His loss is just as bad as our loss.
Strange says for businesses like Doug Young Nursery, the road to recovery is going to be a long and difficult one.
You know, we're looking at plants more than $2 million in losses just to the plants, millions of dollars of losses to the structures. And this is a very large nursery. It's also now what it's going to take to clean it up, to rehabilitate, to grow those plants. You know, we looked at some, plants that have been here 10 years, getting ready to sell, 10 years, and now they're dead.
Samantha Young says she hopes to have some product ready for their customers soon, but it will be a very different looking spring.
So we're going to start a smaller program with 4-inch, and it's going to be on a much smaller scale, but we will have color available. We're taking it one day at a time, and you just kind of have to do what you have to do. Everybody likes to have a pretty yard and a pretty garden, and unfortunately, you're just going to have to wait a little longer this year.
For folks like the Youngs, never has it been more important to shop local.
These people need your help. They need your business. If any way possible, please continue to shop with our local nurseries.
We depend on customers, and without customers, we won't have a nursery, we won't have a business.
For Marcia, closing shop is not an option.
We keep coming back, so hopefully we'll come back again.
For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture,
we're not quitting at this point.
I'm Carl Wiggers.
As you heard in Carl's story, it will take years to fully restock all the plants lost at Doug Young Nursery, and the same will be true for many of their neighbors. However, if you'd still like to support them, they'll have some plants to buy in the next week or two. Just be sure to call before you head out there to make sure. You can find all of their information on our website at twilatv.org. Well, this freeze was not just a nightmare for farmers, but for homeowners as well. Downed trees, frozen pipes, and no power were just some of the things we faced during the winter storm. It was also bad for people like me who like to garden. As Twila's Neil Melanson tells us, nurseries that didn't suffer damage are still working extra hard to fill this year's spring demand.
The winter storms ruined a lot of landscaping in Louisiana. It's making me itch to rip out the old and put in some new here at the house. Not so fast, says Clegg's Nursery's Elena Fenn.
First just kind of go out there and see maybe give it a little time to see what's going to come back from the storm. See if there's anything that can just be cut back, just from your azaleas or trees. If you can just kind of reshape something to get it to flush back out. Otherwise, if you need to just replace the plants fully, coming into March now is going to be the best time to go ahead and start pulling out everything that you don't think is going to make it, and then just kind of get your beds ready again and replant with some fresh plants.
Fennell says the ice storm didn't damage their nursery, but they are having a hard time keeping up with demand. The damage is one part, but there's also a lot of new gardeners with the pandemic happening.
At the greenhouse, we're just trying to keep up with planting, and also just keeping up with the new gardeners we got from last spring through the pandemic. We want to make sure we have a lot of the vegetables and color, also ornamentals to supply for them also.
There's a lot to see here. Fennell says there's some new items that are very popular right now.
One option gardeners can do, instead of planting something in the landscape, if they just want to get a hanging basket, we have some Super Bells Calibracoa. These are great for hanging on the porch to get full sun or at least half a day of sun, and they'll bloom all through the spring and early summer.
I ended up getting one of these for our garden, which will hopefully be back soon. Reporting from Baton Rouge, I'm Neil Melanson.
Now, Clegg's will be holding a garden day on Saturday, March 27th in conjunction with the LSU Ag Center. Several experts from LSU will be there to talk about new ornamentals, building raised beds, and container herb gardens. And we'll have more information for you for that event on our website at twilatv.org. While last week's sunshine and warmer weather brought much needed relief, the impact of this winter disaster is ongoing for many farmers across the state. In North Louisiana, newborn calves froze to death in frigid conditions. Barns, storage facilities, and poultry houses collapsed under the weight of layers of snow and ice. Louisiana Farm Bureau Commodity Managing Director Dr. Ron Harrell says the nearly $2 billion a year poultry industry was especially hard hit. According to the LSU Ag Center, nearly 800,000 birds died in the winter weather event that caused at least 41 chicken houses to collapse.
A larger concern is that we don't know what type of structural damage was occurred in all the houses that were impacted. And this storm went right across the major poultry production areas of the state. I have been told that we could be looking at as much as 80% of some type of structural issue as a result of the storm in our houses. This is something significant. This could have the potential of changing the landscape, so to speak, in poultry producing areas.
LSU Ag Center livestock specialist Jason Holmes says that it's crucial for farmers who lost livestock or infrastructure during the storm to document those damages for insurance and disaster relief programs.
I guess some people may say that's gruesome, but at the end of the day, we know that whenever we have these type of events, we have livestock losses. It's not something I don't think we should hide. It's the way of farm life. You grow corn, you grow soybeans, you grow cotton, you have losses. Well, we grow livestock, we have losses. So document those losses. Hopefully, if you did have some of those livestock losses, you did take some pictures of that and keep those pictures, keep them on your phone, but document.
Extension agents with the LSU Ag Center are currently working to survey the total agricultural damage statewide. To find your local agent and report storm losses, visit our website at twilatv.org. In Grant Parish, freezing rain was the big problem from these winter storms. Ryan Yerby has cattle and row crops, and the cold temperatures and accumulation of ice affected all aspects of his livelihood. As Twila's Avery Davidson shows us, in this weather, the most fragile in agriculture never stood a chance.
The sun is shining and Ryan Yerby is walking out into this field of winter wheat in Grant Parish. But just 5 days before, this is what Grant Parish looked like. Yerby says weather reports predicted snow, others rain. They got ice.
With our cattle, they can kind of hunker down. Snow kind of dries off. Whereas ice, it sticks to them. It drops their body temperature very, very fast. And it doesn't help that we're actually still in calving season right now. So we actually had cows that were set to calve during that event, and naturally cows always wait for the coldest day of the year to have a calf. So that's when we started moving into action and getting hay bales put out, trying to make some form of windbreaks for them. making sure they had their bellies full, and just trying to do as much as we can to protect the cows themselves.
Yerby says once he was able to get out on his tractor, he came upon some heartbreaking sights.
Whenever you get there to the pasture and you start looking and you're counting, and then you see one off by herself and it's just snow and ice on the ground, and your heart sinks and you get that knot in your stomach because you know exactly what you're about to walk up on. And there it is, a poor little frozen baby that never stood a chance.
Yerby lost 2 calves and 1 mama cow. He says he was lucky compared to other ranchers in the state who lost more than 10 times that many calves. That's despite going out into the elements to gather the calves and get them somewhere warm.
We actually worked harder during events like this than we normally would during, I would say, a planting or a harvest season, because you're going out in the middle of the night trying to check on calves or check on cows, or just trying to make sure water troughs are busted open, and trying to keep everything alive. The stress level is just exponentially higher because there's so much that's not in your control, and yet we're still trying to control it.
Back to the wheat field, now is the time when Yerby would normally put fertilizer on his crop. However, seeing damaged leaves like this on almost every plant has him wondering if all 150 acres he planted are already lost.
Without having the snow in front of the cold weather and getting the ice first, we're kind of worried about the wheat being at the stage it's in, that the growing point was exposed to the ice and caused some pretty significant damage to the crop. We're still 10 to 12 days out from really knowing how badly damaged it actually is.
And even if Yerby knew the wheat was okay, it's still too wet for him to get a tractor into this field.
We have been pretty well saturated, I would say, in the fields since, I would say, probably around Thanksgiving. It would just almost get dry enough and we'd get another weather event come through here. And then naturally winters are always wet around here, but when we got the first snowstorm, that just saturated everything. And like I said, now after this ice storm, it's even worse now than it was then. So we still haven't really dried out since Thanksgiving.
And that's not good news because he's hoping to plant corn in just a couple of weeks.
The damage does not end when the storm blows out. Ranchers in northwestern Louisiana say because of the stress from the storms, their calves are not putting on weight like they should, and forage is not coming back like they hoped because of continued rains. Crawfish is one of the few crops being harvested this time of year. However, even that came to a screeching halt over Mardi Gras week. Victor Georges is a reporter for KATC in Lafayette who caught up with a crawfish farmer to see how the frigid weather affected our favorite crustacean.
Right now, we're completely shut down. I've never seen a shutdown like this ever.
Alan Lawson tells me production is completely halted because of the weather.
Yesterday they had ice on.
Not only are the crawfish not moving in the cold waters, but the muddy conditions aren't safe for farmers.
You can't send somebody out in this weather. It's dangerous in those boats. It's slippery. It's icy. It's cold. And then you're not going to catch when the water's this cold. They're just not going to move. Not going to catch anything.
Plus, because this business relies so heavily on the weather, he tells me right now it's just a matter of playing a waiting game.
They've probably buried in the mud, and you're not going to have any amount of crawfish for probably a week or two till the water warms back up. But we got to get some good warm days and some sunshine to get back to some production.
Unfortunately for farmers all over Acadiana, the time is ticking and the season's end won't shift because of the weather.
Just because we've lost a week here in the peak part of the season doesn't mean we'll get it back at the end. Because when the weather gets hot, the crawfish will bury and the season's over. If you lose a week and you lost it.
He says if the days ahead are sunny, this production pause might last about a week. But if conditions keep like this, with overcast days and cold nights, the pause could be longer. He says a good alternative to buying crawfish for a boil or eating at a restaurant is to buy tail meat and making an etouffee. He says this will keep the crawfish supply chain moving. For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm in Crawley. Victor Georges.
Victor, thank you so much for that report. And we're hoping that sunshine out there today is warming up the waters and bringing in a bigger catch so we can have some more crawfish to enjoy very soon. Well, the freeze has had an effect on crawfish prices in Louisiana. We've surveyed a few around the state for you thanks to the Crawfish app, and prices are unusually high for the first week of March. Crawfish Plus of Alexandria has them for $3.99 a pound live and $5.89 a pound boiled. Our friends at Tony's Seafood in Baton Rouge have them for $4.79 a pound live and $1 more for boiled at $5.79 a pound. Shaver's Seafood in Shreveport Bossier has them for $3.99 a pound live and $5.99 a pound for boiled. These crawfish prices are brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, which reminds you to always eat Louisiana crawfish and to make sure you ask before you eat. Still to come on Twila, we see how the freezing weather affected Louisiana's sugarcane crop. Stay with us.
My name's Cullen Kovac, and I'm a director for Louisiana Land Bank, but I'm also a farmer and a rancher. You go to get a loan or something, you always have to go to a building or a bank. I don't have time to drop a whole day and get that done. Louisiana Land Bank, they come out to your place and do business on your farm. They don't have a 9 to 5. I called Louisiana Land Bank, they came out in their pickup truck, and we signed the papers on the tailgate. If you're looking for land or a piece of equipment, call Louisiana Land Bank. They'll come to you.
It's a well-known fact that here in Louisiana, sugarcane is more than just a crop. It's a way of life. It creates more than 16,000 jobs across the state and an additional $3 billion boost to our state's economy. And Louisiana's cane families always give back to the communities where we live, work, and play. Louisiana sugarcane, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane.
I'm a farmer.
I am a farm wife.
I am a cowboy.
I am a grass farmer.
I'm a businesswoman.
I'm a conservationist.
I am an advocate.
I am a voice for Louisiana farmers.
I'm always learning.
I'm a husband.
I'm a mom.
I am a dad.
I'm a granddad.
I am a consumer.
I grow the food that feeds your family, and I'm proud of it. I am Farm Bureau.
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 We are Farm Bureau.
Record low temperatures during the week of Mardi Gras have many sugarcane producers concerned about their crop. As Twila's Craig Gautreaux shows us, freezes this severe are not unprecedented, and a sugarcane expert with the LSU Ag Center is cautiously optimistic the crop made it through without significant damage.
Just weeks after completing the longest grinding season on record, Louisiana sugarcane farmers had to endure record freezing temperatures and are concerned about how it will affect next year's crop. It is too early to tell if the more than 60 hours of sub-freezing temperatures hurt the crop.
Every freeze has its own story, and so we're going to uncover that story in the days and weeks to come.
The good news for farmers is that soil temperatures did not get below 34 degrees, according to soil sensors across the cane belt. More good news is the weather preceding the lowest temperatures offered some protection.
We did have rainfall and a lot of snowfall before this freeze, so that snow is going to act as a temperature buffer.
Gravois said similar weather occurred in January 2018 when nighttime temperatures reached 14 and 17 degrees on consecutive nights.
That was a cold consecutive days for a low temperature. The cane crop survived that fine.
The most devastating freeze in recent memory was a freeze in 1989, when temperatures reached the single digits as far south as Baton Rouge. Gravois does not expect damage similar to that freeze.
Everybody who's old enough remembers the 1989 freeze. That was a devastating freeze. This was not a 1989 freeze event.
Gravois says many of the newer varieties are more cold tolerant than varieties from 25 years ago. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
In January, Louisiana sugarcane farmers finished harvesting the largest crop on record. The 2020 crop produced nearly 2 million tons of sugar. Well, we're going to take a break from our storm coverage for, let's say, maybe a minute. It's time for a Fresh Ag Minute from our friends at the Southern Food and Beverage Museum. This week we learned the origins of that little baby we always find in our favorite king cake.
Hi, I'm Maddie Hayes, and we're here today at the Southern Food and Beverage Museum to do today's Ag Minute, and we are going to be talking about king cake babies. So, king cake babies originally started out as a fève, or in English, a fava bean, about this big. And then later, in the early 20th century, they changed into frozen charlottes, which are little porcelain babies. After World War II, for obvious reasons, we started the now ubiquitous, king cake baby, the plastic ones, because they were cheaper and people couldn't find frozen charlottes anymore. So we have a few right here, and these little laughing pigs are from a local bakery, La Boulangerie, and their sister restaurant, Cochon, which means pig in French. And so it's a cute little nod to their name that they put in their king cake.
To learn more about the Southern Food and Beverage Museum, head over to our website at twilatv.org. Well, still to come on Twila, we take a ride into the snow-covered fields with some farmers on a touching Twila boost. Stay with us.
Landowners are minding the Louisiana forest for our grandchildren. A place for wildlife, recreation, lumber for homes. It's the right thing to do. Forestry, covering half our state, all of our hearts.
Louisiana oysters, salty, sweet, and delicious. But have you ever thought about what happens to all those oyster shells? Most of them end up in trash cans and landfills. The Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana is changing this with its oyster shell recycling program. And you can help by visiting these participating restaurants. It's a simple and delicious way to restore our coast. The shells will then be used to sustain and rebuild oyster reefs. Remember, once you shuck them, don't just chuck them.
That's slow and below. Look, he's blushing. Seriously.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
While most of us rode out the winter storms inside the comfort of our homes, albeit some without power, farmers and ranchers didn't have that luxury. These men and women were braving the elements head-on, feeding and checking cattle, breaking ice in water troughs, and trying to ensure their animals were warm enough to survive the storm. As I watched so many farmers like my father struggle to keep their herds alive, I continuously thought, I just don't understand why they still do this. Why do farmers and ranchers continue to work through conditions like this, always at odds with Mother Nature, market prices, and a consuming public that has no concept of what it takes to produce our food and fiber? Why? Because it's who they are. Their herds are more than animals. They're a part of their lives. And at times like this, their livelihood is on the line. It's tough and sometimes brutal work, but it's honest work. And that's what makes farmers and ranchers such a special breed of human. Thank you to the men and women who do this work every day. So for this week's Twila Boost, I would like to salute all of the farmers and ranchers who work through the storms to ensure that we all have 3 meals a day.
going on pretty good. Mama's got them up close to some hay piles.
Everywhere we're calving, we're unrolling hay. They can either eat it or lay on it, face it, whatever they want, but that's something for them. But the temperature is just so cold. You know, in the south, we're just not prepared for this.
Day 742 of the snowpocalypse. It's currently about 16 degrees. Luckily, no more snow's falling. We out here busting out water troughs again, so Reagan gets to try out her brand new axe. Bust water troughs. And at the rate we're going, we're gonna be here all day.
I don't remember anything as widespread as this disaster is, and I can remember a few here and there, but no, I don't remember anything this widespread, covering the gamut of beef cattle operations, poultry operations, row crop operations. I mean, it didn't discriminate. That band of snow and ice that came across here, it wreaked havoc for sure.
Yesterday, we lost 16 and we saved 1. And that's pretty much been the case since Sunday night. Since that north wind started blowing, it's sleeting and snowing. But my gosh, this week it's been mentally draining, emotionally draining.
That does it for this edition of Twila. Be sure to join us next week when we have some fresh faces here on the set to bring you a very special edition of Twila. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find all of these stories and more on our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe to us and turn on the notifications so you know when we put out new content. For all of us here at Twila, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.